Well, so you have an event tomorrow, which caught my attention at Marquette, and I don't know if we can characterize it as going into the belly of the beast, but one of them anyway. And it's an education panel that you are participating in tomorrow. Would you please talk about that?
Yeah, that's right. I'm really honored to be one of the panelists at Marquette University's event talking about kind of the state of education and where do we go from here post election. And I have the pleasure of being the only, I would say, education reformer on the panel with other attendees, including representation from the Milwaukee Public Schools and the Southeastern Wisconsin School District Association. So no doubt it's going to be a lively and hopefully interesting conversation about, what should be our policies for education in the state of Wisconsin, especially in the world of divided government.
Well, and I applaud you. You seem so enthusiastic about this opportunity, and I'm delighted that you are going to again represent us in a way, and and I think we had such high hopes in this last midterm election that we were going to, with a Republican governor, we would see some significant changes in education here in Wisconsin, and I guess what I'm looking for, I'm hoping, is that we can still see some positive changes. I don't know. I guess I'm not optimistic that universal school choice is on the table anymore at this point. But what are I guess, some reforms that you see that we could possibly still, I guess that we could still realize in this next session?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly share your disappointment. I think we had all hoped for a really strong red wave, and unfortunately, we didn't see that both nationally and in the state of Wisconsin with our governor's race. But there are still some silver linings that I don't think people should forget. First and foremost, there were a lot of legislative candidates that ran on talking to the constituency of parents. The parent concern in education and the sort of post-pandemic wave, in my opinion, still really exists. And we saw that particularly with state legislative races. And I think that that's going to put a lot of pressure on both the state legislature as a whole and the executive branch of Governor Evers to really say, we're not going to just write another blank check for public school education. We want to talk about real reforms and real solutions that are going to help our kids learn. Our state report cards came out yesterday for all the school districts, and Milwaukee Public Schools, despite having less than 20% of students proficient in reading, was somehow found to be meeting expectations. And I think it's those sort of realities that are really moving both parents and state legislators and the allies we have in the state legislature to put pressure on Governor Evers to say, we have to do more than just continue to write a check to local school districts.
How did they finesse the numbers? Because I know that can't be accurate, that Milwaukee Public Schools are meeting standards, because it's just not a fact.
No, I always say I don't know whose standards, what expectations they're meeting. Those
Right,
aren't mine.
right.
CPI has done a couple of things. One is our state report card formula is immensely complex, making it really difficult for both parents and even school board members to understand how we're getting to these final determinations of the number of stars. But DPI has done two things that have really created what we call this quote, former President Bush, the soft bigotry of low expectations. The first thing they did was last year, without any legislative input, they changed the cutoff scores, basically making it easier for districts like Milwaukee to be found to be meeting expectations rather than being found to be failing. And again, they did this on their own with no input from the legislature, and it caused them a pretty big outcry, particularly from Will, because by doing that, they impacted report cards in two ways for parents. One is they made them more confusing, but now, most importantly, second, they've made it so you can't compare report cards year over year, because now the standards that we're saying what's a cutoff point for being a one-star, two-star school, well, now that's changed, and no one knew it changed. And so I can't look at a district's report card 5 years ago and compare it to today's because the data is not the same. And it's those sorts of changes that I think really feed and really confirm what parents are feeling, which is you're not interested in informing me about how my school is actually doing. And I think that's really the core kind of pressure that we're feeling from parents, both on the policy side and in politics.
Well, and I mean, it's hard to not react and say that this was certainly intentional, because ultimately the difference between those on the right and those on the left is that we're just asking for some accountability, and the left is unwilling to do that, and it's unfortunate, but I mean that's very clear when, as you describe, the report cards of previous years cannot be compared to the report card of this year, or even last year. So I guess what it tells me, and I would imagine you would concur with this, is that how important parental involvement is at the local level, because that's our recourse, is that we get involved in our with our local school boards, and if we don't like the decisions that our school boards are making, then we run for office, or we encourage others to run for office that are like-minded, that will try to prevent some of the the decisions that are being made at the DPI level.
That's absolutely correct. And, Will has invested, we have a project called the Restoring American Education Project, where we've really, through that same lens, have said we want to help parents and reform minded school board members, teachers, et cetera, who want to make sustainable and impactful changes at the local level. We want to give you the resources to do that. So we've created model policies that, school districts could implement, such as curriculum transparency. While it would be great to get Governor Evers to sign a bill that would mandate that across the state, there's nothing stopping school districts from making that determination as a policy priority today on their own. And similarly, there's nothing stopping school districts from doing a curriculum review and opening up the door to saying to parents, let's talk about your concerns. And so we really want to empower both the parents and the community members on the ground who are raising legitimate questions and concerns, but we also want to give resources to those who are in power to say there is a path forward. And, these changes might feel really small in the moment, but I'm a believer that those small changes and policy changes over time can really transform a community and, in particular, a school district.
Well, I most certainly hope that our school board members here in Wausau and in central Wisconsin are listening this morning, and that reach out to Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty to get more information about that Restoring American Education project, because I think that this is our best way to combat not only a governor veto, who as you described, is not going to be signing any Republican bills that would help with education here in the state of Wisconsin, nor can we rely upon DPI to do that as well. Our education governor evidently doesn't have that as a priority for the state's school children. Well, Libby Sobic, I'm so glad that you joined me this morning. I wish you the best in this panel, and actually, I would really love to have a conversation with you after, because I feel like you can gather some intel from the opposite point of view, and be able to really to respond to it, and be prepared for what their plan is, or at least what they're talking about, what they're scheming, I guess, behind the scenes.
Well, I'd love to come back and chat with you. I appreciate the well wishes. And for those interested in the event, there is a live stream, so you don't have to attend the event in person. And so on Marquette Law School's website, the event is listed, and there's a way to register to watch it live. So I encourage all the friendly faces or knowing friendly folks that are listening in. Is really going to inspire me to continue to really push the conversation forward with both our allies and people who disagree, because these are really critical conversations for the future of Wisconsin.
And Libby, what's your website URL? Wisconsin Institute for Law and
Yep,
Liberty.
it's WILL-LAW.org. So will-law.org. The Restoring American Education project that I mentioned is listed on our website, and we hope people check it out.
Excellent. Well, thanks again, Libby. I appreciate it. She's the Director of Education Policy for Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty.